Hello everyone. Today I have a rather different topic for you. As you might know, I've played poker for a couple of years. Well, couple is maybe exaggerated, like 2 years approximately. And while I was playing poker, I also had some contact to people who were into sports betting, and I also did some sports betting, just basically using their picks. And then I stopped again, but with StarCraft coming out shortly after, there were also some pages that offered betting lines on StarCraft, and so at that time I figured, why don't I start betting on StarCraft, because that's something I actually know something about. And yes, that's why I started betting on StarCraft. But to begin with, I want to make a short introduction about betting in general. If you already have experience with sports betting, you can just skip this part, as it probably just bores you. But yes, I think many people don't know much about it, and that's why I want to quickly explain some things, some terms I will be using. First off, about odds, there's usually two systems of odds that are being used: decimal and American. I personally use American. I think I personally just find it more like handy, and yeah, I will just quickly explain how that works. I made a here. I made a small Word document that explains it. So basically, in American odds, you either have a plus or a minus in front of a number. The number is at least 3 digits, and a number always assumes like a sort of a base value of 100. And if there's a plus in front of the number, that means that if you bet 100 and your bet wins, you get back the 100, and you get a profit on top of 134 in this case, or whatever is after the plus. If there's a plus 500 and you bet 100, you get a profit of 500, so you get 600 back in total. And then there can be a minus in front of the number, and that means that you have to bet the amount that is after the minus to win 100. For example, at minus 122 means you have to bet 122 to win 100, and of course you always get your stake back. In both cases, if your bet loses, you lose your stake. You don't get anything. And second is handicaps. This example is for StarCraft, for a best of 3. If you have one player, like let's say Marine King against random American Scrub, then there's most likely a line like Marine King minus 1.5, and that basically means that from the end result there is 1.5 points subtracted. And so Marine King or whoever has to win by 2-0, otherwise you lose your bet. If he wins only 2-1, then you would lose your bet. And then if there's a minus 1.5 being offered, there's also always a plus 1.5 being offered. That means that the player you bet on only has to take one map. So if the player either has to lose 1-2 or he has to win, and then you win your bet. And only if he loses 0-2 you would lose your bet. Yes, so that's it for the short introduction of those terms. And one thing that I want to talk to everyone about is juice, or vigorish. There's many names for that. Basically, if you bet with a bookmaker, he will never let you bet at the he will always have an advantage in a way. That means, for example, the standard juice. I'm not really sure how to whether you know that term. The standard juice is minus 110. That means if you bet on a coin flip, you only get the odds you get are minus 110, and not plus 100 or minus 100, which is both equally is the same. And so that means if you bet on a coin flip at minus 110, so of course then you are losing every time you bet, and so you should not be betting. And in order to profit with sports betting, you need to have a considerable information advantage over the person who set the line. The line is the odds. And that makes it quite interesting, and that's why I like betting. I mean, well, I like gambling. I really enjoyed playing poker, except for the frustration of losing. And so, yes, like it's a real challenge to like identify when you have an edge over the bookmaker, and of course it's fun to make money if you do make money, which is not that easy but possible. And but there's other things that you can learn from betting, or just like looking at betting lines. For example, I often see, especially on Team Liquid, I often see people greatly underestimate like what the chances of a player. Like for example, let's say like two Code S players face each other in a best of three. Doesn't really matter which ones. Like oftentimes it's like 60-40, but like there's often like a bunch of blind fanboys who just think, yeah, like whoever is the small favorite, like, oh, he's so much better and the other player sucks and blah blah blah, and they just think that the other player has no chance or very little chances. But in reality, if you observe betting lines and if you bet a bit yourself, then yes, the reality is very different. And I think you can learn a lot about the game, and you can actually, at least I have, you can learn something for your own gameplay. Because, for example, if you know that you're a very big underdog, then you should take you should take risks, and you should not care so much about like playing safe and those kind of things. So you should actually try to turn the game into a coin flip, because, well, that increases your winning chances considerably. And of course, betting also, like, that should not be the main reason, but betting admittedly makes the games more fun to watch. Like oftentimes I see myself only watching the GSL matches that I actually ended up betting on, because I don't know, it's just more interesting to watch if you actually have something at stake yourself. But I would not recommend to bet only for that reason, because that usually ends up in you losing money. Of course, you can also bet on regular sports, but I would say that pretty much everyone who watches this video probably does not have any inside knowledge in regular sports, and that means if you don't really have like any information advantage over the person who puts the odds, then you are probably going to end up losing. And that's why I personally only bet on StarCraft. I've tried betting on like normal sports a little bit, but that didn't go so well, and I would not recommend you to do it. I also bet some on Dota, but not much. Mainly I have been betting on StarCraft for actually like around 2 years by now. And the whole thing with the information advantage, it's a lot like a stock market. You just need to know more than everyone else, and then you can profit. For example, if you know certain player went, let's say a Korean went overseas to the US, and the travel is very exhausting, and for example he got sick on the way, and then you read like you see a video interview of him on Team Liquid, and you see him sneezing, and he says he is very sick and he's not feeling well. Well, then I mean it's a bit mean maybe, but you should definitely be betting against that person then. Same thing like when you read an interview that some person has carpal tunnel since like a few days or so, well, that person is not going to do well in their next match. Like MVP is a good example, although like he, for whatever reason, ended up winning a GSL championship shortly afterwards, and IEM. But anyway, in StarCraft you can actually have an information advantage over the person who sets the lines, because the person who sets those lines cannot watch all the interviews, and players in StarCraft are somewhat like unstable, I would say, in like handling their condition. Like they get sick or they don't sleep well and those kind of things. And if you are very involved in the scene, you can pick up those kind of informations. Another example is players that are like generally underrated or unknown. A good example would be, I think at that time it was TSL Polt Prime. I think it was Polt Prime. I'm not sure in what team he was at that time. Anyway, when Polt played in the Super Tournament, I remember like people really hated him and people really thought he was very bad. And I think he cheesed. Now I remember. I think he cheesed Jinro, and he was like not very mannered in an interview or something. Anyway, like many people thought he was very bad and rather cheesy and not a good player. And I remember he was the underdog in like almost all his matches in the Super Tournament, starting from the first match against Lucira, who was like regarded as like top 3 Zerg at that time. But I remember, for example, Polt won one of those SK Champions trophies at that time, and yes, I ended up betting on, in that case, on Polt because like from watching games of his, I saw that he's actually a good player, even though, well, many people didn't think so. And yes, I actually ended up. I think I ended up betting on him in every single game of the tournament, which obviously went very well as he won the tournament. Nowadays, those kind of things are harder to do because like all the established players are well known and like it's known how strong they approximately are. But still, like sometimes you see a player in GSTL who's like actually really good, but he just hasn't qualified for Code A yet because qualifying for Code A is actually quite hard. And so you can, for example, you can look for the play style of someone. Another example would be MMA, who first played in GSTL under the nickname, I think, J-Job or something like that. And I was really impressed that he actually played like a very solid Terran style, like taking a third base instead of going for the mindless two base all in. And yes, like if you really see that someone's play style is very good, but he just doesn't have that many games yet, so like the person who makes the odds will underestimate him. And those are the kind of spots where you can profit. Yeah, I hope I gave you a bit of insight. I will definitely be making more videos about this topic. I don't want to make my videos all too long, and so I will leave it at this for today. And yes, maybe you got interested and maybe you learned a little bit. And yeah, thank you for watching, and please subscribe my channel if you like my videos. Goodbye.